For the next 6 weeks, I have a special guest on Wednesdays with me, and it is Amanda O'Shea. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Dougie.
How are you?
I'm really well. I'm
Good,
really
good, good.
excited to be back in the
Look
studio.
at you. You're all smiley and everything, even though it's January. Look at that smile. I love that. I love that. That's always good. So what are we doing? This is our moment, isn't it?
What are we doing? What are we up to?
Well, the thing is, we're it's that time of year, isn't it, where everyone's like, oh, I've overdone it a bit. I really, really should address my well-being and, my health and what have you. And it's this time of year when everybody it focuses on that. So I think it's probably a good time to be doing this.
I think it's a marvellous time to be doing this. And it's true. I think there is, such a big build-up to the Christmas and the New Year. And then I think for some people it feels like it's a very reflective time. So people do have that that's where the whole New Year's resolutions come in and all that sort of stuff. And then we're here and suddenly it's January, and in Spain we have that extended, don't we, to the sort of 6th of January. And then it's like, now what? And it is, people have that feeling they've overeaten or they've over-celebrated or over-drunk or over whatever. And we're all full of good intentions. And, so that's wanted to share a little bit today about, just how I see all that playing out. And, exciting.
Yes, absolutely. Where do you want to start? I mean...
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Like when even just coming in here actually to the studio, it reminds me of when I used to have a radio show and the feelings that we get, I was really excited. And it's like that for some people would be absolutely terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Right, like the idea of doing a live radio show. So I'm sure you have.
I terrify myself every day. Believe me.
When I first went on the radio, it all happened quite quickly. Someone heard me doing a talk, and that's what happened. And next thing, I had this show, and I really didn't know what to do. I got a little bit of training, like the decks, but there's lots of buttons and lots of lights and lots of things.
We love buttons and lights. The lights are the most important bit.
And I remember, I made all the mistakes that you do, but I was quite lucky that I didn't have too much thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
that's good. Sling you in at the deep end.
Yeah, and so and I suppose the job that I do, the work that I do, and I'm a coach, and I work with and I speak a lot about how the thinking system works and how the feeling system works, and and seeing that really, some people experience nerves and other people experience excitement. And taking that as a good example, say we had two guests on here, one could be absolutely terrified and one isn't. So I get really curious for that. Well, what's the difference with those two people? Because they're in the same studio. They're both sitting across from Dougie Mack. Yeah, so
that's scary enough. I mean, that's why I'm on radio and not telly.
Yeah. You got a great face for radio. The old ones are the best ones, eh? But it is that, two people. So it can't be Dougie. It can't be the radio. It can't be the studio. When we get to see, the difference between two people having two very different experiences of the same situation is down to their thinking. So it's really super helpful. That's why I call it the biggest secret in the universe, to understand how your thinking system works. Yeah. And there's something happens that when we get a better a truthful understanding, I think, of how our thinking system works, is that naturally the implications of that are that we are in our well-being and we are in more security and we have an understanding. And when we have an understanding of how something works, it's just not that scary as it was, or it's not as scary as it was. So yeah, we're going to go deep, Dougie.
Yeah, good. Well, let's get understanding. I mean,
Yeah. So is that. So I'm in here to, I want to blow your socks off. That's what I want to do. I want to blow away the cobwebs.
Well, that's exactly what we need, especially, as I say, January, where everybody has maybe overdone it a little bit, and they think, right, and it is this time of year when everyone takes out a gym membership and things like that. And,
yeah.
All right, I mean it. I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to do it, and then get to about sort of March, April.
Yeah.
It tails off a bit then.
Yeah.
You're sort of more in, getting into. Maybe your old habits or whatever.
And we are going to be, we're going to talk about habits, and we're going to talk about addictions, and we're going to talk about life in general and Wellness Wednesday is the title. But I am going to encourage any of the listeners who are listening now to make the most of this hour every Wednesday, and get yourself a cup of tea or get yourself nice hot water and lemon if you're on some sort of a tea detox, and sit and listen, because I'm sharing this now because this is something that impacted my life in such a positive way. And I want to share a bit about that and a little bit of that story. And I have seen hundreds of people have a life change, really, and that's amazing. And when you get to see that, I feel like I've got one of the best jobs in the world. But when you get to tap people on the shoulder and sort of wake them up to see who they truly are and see who they are at their true potential and the capacity that they have for living well and for having wellness, that's a beautiful thing, and I'm truly grateful for that. So let's see what magic we can conjure up in this wonderful hour, and we'll play a bit of music too.
Yeah.
Most people know the van, the Serendipity Experience van that buzzes around town.
That's how I know you.
Oh, it's funny.
I've done gigs around, and you've been there with your van. And that's how I got to know you.
So people don't often know me, but they know the van. No, there's a couple in town, but mine's red and white. A guy called Nick's got the green Volkswagen van.
Right.
Yeah, musician Nick. And then there's another couple, but no, mine's the red and white. But it's faded. It's old. Maybe it looks orange.
Oh, maybe. My eyes are old.
But you see, isn't that just something else? What looks orange to one person looks red to another person.
It's all about frequencies,
Tell us more about that.
Well, I'm more your audio frequency sort of guy, you know what I mean? But
But that is what we are talking about. We are talking about, something called energy.
Yeah.
Which is frequencies and vibrations and without getting into too much of that sort of thing, but that is what we are talking about when we refer to that, don't we? About our state of mind or our mood. We're in a good mood, we're in a low mood, in a bad mood, we're in high vibration, low vibration. Somebody feels like they got good vibe. You get good vibes.
Yeah, you often hear that,
and all
don't
that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So how do we get good vibes constantly?
Well, isn't that the thing? Isn't that the sort of, we can talk about, or I can talk about this stuff all day long, but what people want to know is, well, tell me how to do it. And what I'm here to share is, I don't know so much that there's a doing, is more of a pointing you back to see that you've got everything that you need inside of you. You've got all those good vibes. And then the question is, well, how come we don't always feel that then? Right. So it's not so much that we have to do things to feel better. I see that it's very, very helpful to understand how our feeling system works, understand how our thinking system works, and they're one and the same, really. And we get to see that we have all the good feelings inside that we like, feelings of love and peace of mind and wellness and gratitude. And I think the big ones are peace of mind. I think the big ones are peace of mind and love. We're all chasing a feeling, actually. At the end of the day, we're all chasing a feeling. And when we get to see is that those feelings don't ever go anywhere. It's just that they kind of get covered up. They get covered up with our personal thinking. And if our personal thinking is going off on one, or is confused, or is caught up in the misunderstanding, which is where I see a lot of human beings are at, then the kind of the implications of that are that insecure feelings are kind of experienced. So it's sort of like the good feelings are always there, a little bit like the sunshine.
Yep.
They're like, do you believe, Dougie, that the sun is always there, even on a cloudy day?
It's got to be in it.
Right.
Science, in it.
Science, isn't it?
Science, innit?
Yeah. So I like that as a metaphor, talking about the weather, because it's sort of like who we are at our true essence, who we truly are. Like we're all born happy, and seeing that that's always there, I'm more curious with, well, what is it that covers it up? And so for me, metaphorically, that's the clouds. And the great news is that clouds come and clouds go, and they do move and they do pass, and our feelings are temporary. Our feelings are not permanent, because our thinking has a nature to it that it changes. So our thoughts change. That's part of the system. There's a pre-existing logic to our thinking system, and it works perfectly. It just seems that we don't really understand how it works. So that's the way I see it. So I'd love to talk to that a little bit.
Do?
Yeah. I'd love to talk to how I came across this, actually, because I work with a huge community who are all sharing, and I'd like to give a shout out actually to one of the members of this lovely community, Anne O'Neill from Oranmore in Galway in Ireland, who's told me she's tuning in, and Anne has just been here in Havia for a weekend. We've been doing a big training weekend on how to bring this understanding that I'm talking about today into the schools and into our young, and share it with the teenagers. So there are lots of people from all over the world. This isn't just the little lady in the camper van flying around with a new idea. This is something that has been revealed in the world of education, the world of psychology, which explains, or that's what it did for me, explains how our thinking system works, how our feeling system works. And for me, that explained all human behavior. So that's what happened. Was about 8 years ago, I was sort of invited along to one of these little workshops, a talk. And there was a guy over called Jack Pransky who was up in Albert giving a talk and doing a course introducing coaches and psychologists and doctors and headmasters and a whole array of people who had come across this understanding, which is commonly known as the inside-out understanding, or the 3 principles. And they had sort of been introduced to this and had a positive effect on them, and they wanted to share it. And this guy Jack Pransky was in town sharing how to do that. And I went along to one of his talks and I heard something there which kind of put all the other things that I had learned in the world of self-development or personal development or self-help, sort of spun it on its tail, really. So at first, the kind of know-it-all bit that is inside of Amanda, that's inside lots of characters that I come across, I did that kind of, I know all about that, because I'd read all the books and I'd travelled and I'd done that, 9 years extensive travelling, and had been into all the different philosophies and religions, and looked at all these things, always looking, I suppose, for something that felt like it was missing within me, and so I wasn't somebody that was really depressed or suicidal. Or often when people have had these kind of transformations, they were at their low, or they were going through something, and they stumbled across something. That's what the word serendipity means. The effect by which we accidentally stumble across something positive. It's normally always positive, but I kind of stumbled upon this, but not because I was in a bad way. I've always been a pretty happy-go-lucky girl, but I had a very, very busy mind. Like, my mind was constantly on the go, and I'd have huge conversations with myself, like many of us do. Do you ever do that, Dougie?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, have a little chat with yourself.
I don't make any sense with anything I tell myself or anything. Yeah.
Do you argue with yourself?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. Do you lose?
Yeah. Often. Yeah. My dog makes more sense than I do when I'm talking to him.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that actually, it's so true that sometimes it would make more sense speaking to the dog or speaking to the tree, because they're not answering us back with their opinion, their advice, this, that, or the other, and when we reflect on our own issues for ourselves, they tend to sort themselves out. It tends to, our thinking settles. We get quiet, our thinking settles, and something happens to us when our thinking personal thinking settles, is that all those good feelings like clarity and well-being and calm and peace of mind, they come to the surface again. It's a bit like the clouds pass, and when we feel that ray of sunshine again, it warms our bones. That's the kind of the same thing that happens, and that's what happened for me. I think I was so busy reading book after book after book and doing courses and looking in this direction and joining every spiritual group going and thinking that I was more spiritual than other people maybe, and and very caught up in my own ego but also coming from a good place that I really wanted to help, and I felt like I was onto something, and so when I learned about the inside out understanding, it just ticked every box for me. Suddenly everything made sense to me. Like, that's what I say, all human behavior made sense, and that's quite a big, people have studied human behavior for years and years and years and years. And I'm not saying that I ever condone bad behavior. I'm just saying that I now understand how it is created and where it comes from. And if you like, I see the innocence behind our human behavior. So that started my journey, and that started me looking in this direction of how does our thinking system really work, and how does our feeling system work, because they are one. Actually, they're not two separate systems, they're one system. And the biggest point that I came to see, which was oh my God, all that is ever happening is I am feeling my own thinking in the moment. That's all that's ever happening. And that might not sound like that's a big deal, but when you see the depth of that, it's absolutely huge, because it means that I don't feel a situation or a circumstance or an event. I feel my thinking about a situation or a circumstance or an event. I don't feel other people. Other people don't have the power to make me feel a certain way, because the only thing that's ever happening is I'm feeling my own thinking about another person. And that really allows you to take your power back, because we outsource our well-being. We outsource our feelings. And we all do that because that's the world that we were born into, that believes that that's the way that it works, that other people and situations and circumstances and events, that they have the power to make us feel negative or positive. And what we're pointing people towards is, what if that's not true? What if that's not the way it works? And what if that's never been the way that it's worked? And it's never going to be the way it works, because systems, have a logic to them. And the thinking system is no different. There is a logic to the thinking system. And when we see that, when we see the truth of how that works, everything else just falls into place. And it is, for me, it was oh my God, how comes nobody ever told me this stuff? And it's like, and I was like, whatever then, I was 42 or 43 years old. I was like, I've traveled the world and I've done this, and nobody had ever pointed me to that. So I'm so grateful that I stumbled upon this, many years ago, and I'm very, very grateful that life has since then just kind of opened doors, and here I am now sharing this stuff internationally, so it's really, really amazing. And for me, the biggest gift is seeing somebody who's struggling or suffering and innocently creating their own suffering and creating their own insecurity and creating their own fearful thinking, and they wake up to the fact of what they're doing, and a lot of that stuff just melts away, just falls away, and then they're left to play with, creativity, and can start to to fall in line with how the world really works, how the human experience really works. And that's so lovely, because I see families come back together, I see relationships blossom, I see people fall back in love with themselves. And when you fall back in love with yourself, you fall back in love with other people, and you fall back in love with life, and you fall back in love with nature. and it just doesn't make sense to you to act in the way that you did before. So that's kind of cool, you know.
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah, and that's available, Dougie, to everyone. So anybody that's listening to this live on air or listening to this on a recording later, you know, I'm talking to you. You know, this is available to all of you. If you're a human being, and that means if you can hear me talking and you're breathing, then you're alive. And that aliveness is such a gift. So I want to wake us up to that.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to break for some music, and we'll be back in just a mo. And I'll tell you what, we'll discuss how people can maybe get in touch with you. And you've got a YouTube channel as well, haven't you?
I've got a YouTube channel.
We'll talk about that in a mo. Yeah. Wellness Wednesday. I'm here with Amanda O'Shea. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Dougie.
We've got just minutes left. It's crazy. This hour's gone really quickly. Thank you ever so much for coming along, and just so that everyone knows that you will be back next Wednesday, same time, midday.
Absolutely. Yes.
Continue.
Yeah, we're going to do 6. We're going to do 6 weeks in a row. And that will bring us up to, it'll be almost springtime then, won't it? Not that the weather can make us happy, Dougie. Not that the seasons make us happy. But I know it looks like it does. Yeah. But not everybody, you know, it's funny, isn't it? Because when I moved to Spain, I've been living here, it'll be 14 years this summer.
Same here.
Oh, really?
No, it's 15 for me this year.
Okay, so you can just for me. But my story used to be, people used to say, why you know, why did you move to Spain, or why are you moving to Spain? And my story was, the sun makes me happy. And so when I got to start to see that nothing can make me happy, you know, happiness is something inside of me, and that's sort of how it works. It took me a long time to get my head around the weather, but you know, it is so true. There are a lot of people that live in Spain that are not happy. A lot of people on antidepressants that live in Spain. You know, it's not the weather that makes us happy, but we have preferences. Yeah. So I have a preference, but you know, there's not anything out there that can make me happy. And we'll talk more as the shows go on over the next 6 weeks.
Hang on a minute. What about ice cream?
Yeah, chocolate ice cream.
Oh, come on, you can't be ice cream. Go on.
Chocolate ice cream used to be that's the answer to everything. Just a bowl of chocolate ice cream.
Me too. Still is for me.
Right. And here's the thing. The thing is that, you know, if you get some pleasure out of eating chocolate ice cream, and you can because you're not diabetic or blah, 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 you know, there's nothing wrong with chocolate ice cream. The problem comes when we think that chocolate ice cream is the answer to our problems.
Absolutely.
Or the alcohol, or the drugs, or the pills, or the this, or the that. And that's where the issue is that when we think other things can make us feel better, or other things can, you know, then we start to rely on those things, or we look for those things. And because they may temporarily appear to, you know, shift our mood or whatever it might be, but because that's not the way the system works, that it will never sustain. So when we do things, when we have healthy habits, let's just say, you know, they're great if we enjoy doing them. But, you know, we're not going to feel better because somebody else has told us that, doing yoga or doing meditation or doing this or doing that makes you feel good, you know, because it's not true. It might make some people feel good, but that doesn't work for everybody. So it's great to have all these healthy habits. There's nothing wrong with that at all. As long as we get to see that we're not okay because we have a ritual of healthy habits. We're okay because we're okay as our home base, as our bottom line is that we're okay. And then we get to build upon that, and we get to live in our okayness, or it feels like things take our okayness away from us. So we're going to look at this sort of stripping back, if you like. We're going to look at how it doesn't work. And when we look at how it doesn't work, that kind of reveals how it does work. Right. And so it's a little bit of we're going to, you know, put a little bit of a different spin on it. And you know, I mean, I share this, like you're saying, you know, I share this in workshops, and I share this in retreats. And I currently work at an addiction centre in Moraira that used to be here in Javier. And I also have, as you said, my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just recently done a series called 90 and 90. And that came as a bounce off from the working at the recovery centre, because 90 and 90 is something that in the world of the fellowships like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, well, people that have gone down that route, they are often encouraged to do something called 90 and 90, and that means that when they are fresh in early recovery, they're recommended to do 90 meetings in 90 days.
Oh, right.
And that's quite a challenge. Well, I overheard one of because I don't come from the traditional 12-step program. I think it's a beautiful program, but that's not what I share at the Recovery Centre. I share about this stuff that we're talking about. But I thought, wow, that's quite a challenge. I thought, I'm going to take that challenge on. And I'm going to have 90 little conversations with 90 fabulous people from all over the world over 90 days. And that's what I did. So I set up, and some of the YouTube channel is under Amanda O'Shea, but I spoke to, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 people in the community, local community. So have a look out for any names you might recognise if you go on there. But I also spoke with people that are sharing this understanding all over the globe. And then I also spoke with people that I see are out there sharing their own message in their own powerful way. And I think one of your old mates was on there, Brandon Block.
Oh, Brandon, bless him. Haven Stables, 1990. Oh, those were the days up Ealing.
Yeah, that's right. And he, it's so funny because we've got so many friends in common. I've never actually met him, but isn't it funny how what I call serendipity plays out? And somebody said to me, oh, you should speak to my friend Brandon. He's got this thing called Happy Days going on. And, he's in recovery and very openly, and he's written books, and he's been on Celebrity Big Brother and Celebrity Come Dine With Me and all of these kind of things. And he's very out there and very followed. And he's sharing a message of in the way that he sees it in recovery and well-being and pointing everyone to happy days,
Absolutely.
So he's such a character. So that was fun doing the chat with him.
So what's the YouTube channel name? Is it just
Amanda O'Shea?
Okay.
Yeah, just Amanda O'Shea. And that finished. So I did it. I completed it. The 90 conversations in 90 days, and some really interesting. I had some really great chats. So you can watch some of those. You can have a look at the Facebook page, The Serendipity Experience, and you can find all details about me on the Serendipity Experience website.
.com?
.com, yeah,
.com,
theserendipity.experience.com. So, I'd really love to encourage anybody listening, if they would like to send in any questions or have any questions that they'd like me to talk about in the 5 weeks to follow. We've had a couple of people actually write in while we've been on air. Michael Ray from Javier said he's enjoying the show, and Claire Parsons, she's listening just down the road actually, and saying that she's loving it. And Claire's also been part of the team that have been trained up. The great news for this area is that just this weekend past, we've run a training here to train up people to share this understanding in the schools. It's a program called iHeart. It's a curriculum that's been created so that our young teenagers can start to get an understanding of how their mind works.
Good idea.
That's amazing.
We're going to have to talk about that next week.
We will do.
We're going to
talk about that. Thank you, Dougie.
It's been a pleasure. And speak to you next week then.
Thank you. Lots of love. Love to all. Have a great week.